will just be finishing the notes, so probably just a few examples, because we got really far in the notes yesterday. But the goal of the lesson has been to multiply polynomials. That was actually the goal of this lesson and the last lesson. It's just in this lesson, we're looking at specifically like a binomial times a binomial and a binomial times a trinomial. So in order to be successful at that, you need to be able to distribute. You need to be able to combine like terms, write your answer in standard form, and then, make sure you can apply certain methods like foiling or double distributing on these new types of problems that we saw yesterday. The lesson from yesterday is linked in here. We will have a good chunk of time today to work on the practice. So if you weren't here yesterday, you could go through the lesson and start taking down notes because we are doing the exit ticket today. Regardless if you were here yesterday or not, you're still going to complete that. So take those notes down in the independent time that I'm giving you. And then of course I'm recording right now and I'll link it in here for anyone who's absent today. The practice you picked up on your way in today, so it's evens or odds. My first hour had no problem finishing it aside from like a couple people. I don't know if they just didn't want to ask questions or what, but feel free to ask questions if you get stuck. The goal is to finish it today. So we're gonna finish the practice today. Go over the answers and do the exit ticket. So if you're struggling through it, then you need to ask, because we're going to keep moving right along. Because if you look at the schedule for this week and next week, we have a test on Tuesday, the topic test. And I'd really like for us to have some review days before we take the test. But it just depends on how quickly we get through the lessons this week. So it'd be nice, I think, to prepare you for the test, but otherwise we are still testing on Tuesday. So any questions? All right, and I've been saying this for a while, but deadline for late work is coming up. I'm sure it's coming up in all your other classes too, so just make sure you're staying on top of your work. Don't let it pile up at the end. All right, so let's go back to where we left off in the notes. So as you can see, we got to this section of our notes where it's a binomial times a trinomial. So what's a binomial? A two-term expression. So like here, x plus 4, or k minus 5, or 2b plus 3. Those all have two terms. And then what's a trinomial? A three-term expression. And yesterday we went over two methods for solving. We went over foiling and double distributing. Well, when it's a binomial times a trinomial, what's the only method you can use? Double distributing. You can't foil on this section. All right, so if you want to just memorize double distributing, go ahead, because it'll work for each situation. Otherwise, if you want to memorize FOIL, it's just for the two-term times the two-term. All right, but here we needed to double distribute. That's what we did in 19. It's color-coded so you can see. And then after distributing, you need to combine like terms and write your answer in standard form. All right, so we'll do 21 together just to kind of warm us up, and then I'll have you try 23. So 21, what's the first step? And what do we distribute first? The 3a. And you're distributing it to the other set of parentheses, to every single term in there. So what's 3a times 5a squared? 15a cubed is correct. So a times a squared gives me a cubed. And then 3a times 2a. 6a squared, good. So 3 times 2 is 6. A times a is a squared. And 3a times negative 6. Negative 18a is correct. Sorry, this thing is tripping out a little bit. All right, and keep an eye on your symbols. Make sure, since it's negative, that you put negative 18a. And now what do we do? After you distribute the 3a, what do we do? Distribute the other number from the two-term expression. So in this case, it's the 1. So what's 1 times 5a squared? Good, and since it's positive, make sure you put plus 5a squared. What's 1 times 2a? Good, and what is 1 times negative 6? Good. All right, now you can combine like terms. But when you're doing that, I suggest looking to your higher value exponents first. That way, your answer will pretty much be in standard form already. So what would you look at first? Yes, and which one would you try to write first? So standard form is ABC order with the higher value exponent first. So which term should we write down first? 15a cubed is correct. Is there any other a cubed terms? No, but we still kind of want to look at those first because, sorry, I didn't mean to cross it out. We still want to look at those first because we want our answer to pretty much be in standard form by the time that we're done. All right, so after the 15a cubed, what would we look at next? 6a squared. Can anything combine with that one? 5a squared. Good, so like just scan it, look for any others that you can combine, and there is another one. So what's 6a squared plus 5a squared? 11a squared. Good. Next we would write, or we would look at, can anything combine with that one? And what's negative 18a plus 2a? Good. And then only one thing remains, it's that constant. Those always get written last. All right, so I'm going to bring this down here. So all like terms are combined. Our answer is in standard form. So we can box this up. That's our final answer. Questions on 21? Yes? Yes. All right, go ahead. You guys try 22. And for this one, I'm just going to project it. So we'll have an answer ready in about 1 minute. And if you got something different, you know, I'll explain right now. But if you got it right, then great. In these, the binomials times the trinomial, you have no other choice. You have to double distribute. So that means that I need to take the first term, use the binomial, so the 2b, and multiply it by each term in the other set of parentheses. All right, that's how we get 2 times 4b squared as 8b cubed. 2b times negative 3b negative 6b squared. 2b times negative 6 is negative 12b. All right, so multiply the coefficients. Use a product rule on your variables. And then once you've multiplied it by each of those 3 terms, then you distribute the 3. So the other term in the binomial. That's how we get 3 times 4b squared as a positive 12b squared. 3 times negative 3b is negative 9b. And 3 times negative 6 as negative 18. So just don't forget your integer rules. A positive times a negative is a negative. A positive times a positive is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. All right, because if you get one of those signs wrong, it does change it when you combine like terms. So combine like terms would be next. You want your answer in standard form. So that's why we have the higher value exponent first, the b cubed, then the b squared, then the b's. All right. So questions on this process? We good? Yes?
How did you get 21?
So that one was for the b terms. Let me see, there could be a mistake, but I don't think so. So the b to the first. I have negative 12b and negative 9b. If I put that in my calculator, negative 12 minus 9, I get negative 21. All right, so combine does mean add. So if you wrote it like this, negative 12 plus negative 9, you would still get negative 21. All right, questions on that, on anything else? All right, great. These geometric applications, I'll just kind of show you. They're not this complex on your test. I will say, like they don't say find the area of the shaded region, but you do need to find the area of a rectangle. So what's the formula for area of a rectangle? Length times width. Sorry, let me get the screen back up. But yes, length times width, or base times height, whatever your preference. So if I were to find the area of the smaller rectangle, that would be x plus 12 times 3x, because base times height, and that's what they're showing you over here. You're multiplying it by that whole term. That's why it's in parentheses. What if I wanted to find the area of the larger rectangle? What would I be multiplying? Good. So the base, which is 9x minus 2, times the height, which is 2x plus 7. And again, it's like this term times that term. That's why there's parentheses there. And so you know, like here, since it's a 2-term times a 2-term, you could FOIL or double distribute. You know that over here, since it's a 1-term times a 2-term, you're just distributing. So be able to find the area of rectangles, even if it's written as an expression. It's all I'm saying. All right, good. Any questions? All right, so then you have time to practice.